To the September 17th, 2020 Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission. I'm Chuck Turner. I'm the co-chairman. I've been here for 5 years. So last September, 5 years ago, I was appointed to this board, and I'm proud to serve as vice chairman. Unfortunately, the chairman, Luke Winchester, was unable to make it tonight, so I'm taking over in his place. So I would like to now set the agenda. I believe that there is one additional item, and we will add that item as 4.4, and it will be the sidewalk discussion for Stewart's Landing. I think everyone has a copy of that. We'll add that as 4.4. Are there any other changes, additions, deletions to the agenda? If not, we'll set the agenda as stated. And so now I'd like to have staff reports. So we're pleased to have Ms. Hambling sitting next to me. So she is a planning director, so I'll ask her for her staff report.
Thanks. I don't have much to say. Just thanks for everybody that came out to the county's stormwater class that they had. And if you have not already done so, send your certificate to Jill for record. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hamlin. Let's see, is Mr. Barlow or
Shane.
Oh, hey, Shane.
Good evening. Just a few nuggets tonight. We have confirmed that the I-40 bridge widening project will be part of the October TDOT letting. The exact date is October the 8th. We're also looking at a mid-October ribbon cutting ceremony for the Town Center Greenway. And we're also pleased to announce that we've got a 95% grant for Phase 3 sidewalks from the new Green Hill High School up to Nonneville Road. And we're looking at $1 million project. And we've already awarded the design to Kimley Horn. So looking forward to that. And that's all I've got tonight.
Thank you, Shane. I'm sorry I skipped our Deputy Planning Commissioner. Mr. Baumann, do you have anything? We're good. Okay. Now I'd like to call for citizens' comments. So citizens are welcomed and encouraged to come to the podium and speak. You have 3 minutes to speak. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. You can speak now, or you can speak when your item on the agenda is brought up. You can only speak once, however. So any citizens wishing to make comments? I see none, so we'll continue to move on. So we have our minutes approval. So this is going to be from the Planning Commission regular meeting of August the 20th, 2020 at 6:30. Are there any changes, deletions, discussion on the minutes from last month's meeting? I see none, so I'm asking for a motion on this part of the agenda. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. No. Abstentions. Okay, so wonderful. So next we're going to go to our consent agenda. So 3.1 is a sewer letter of credit 55106427 for the Batson Mapco property can be released with the condition of the release upon the receipt of the new letter of credit from the new owner of the property in the amount of $24,516. Sewer letter of credit 7010689A for Park Glen Phase 6A in the amount of $50,437.50 can be released. Review the final plat for Groves Reserve Phase 2 located at 1100 Pleasant Grove Road. Review the site grading plan for 98 Hatfield Lane. review the site plan for Faith is the Victory Church located at 2564 North Mount Juliet Road. And this is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissions for review the rezone request for 1411 Old Lebanon Dirt Road. So I'd like to see what kind of comments staff has on the consent agenda.
I just have one change for item 3.3. Our condition states, this is planning and zoning condition number 3, revise the lot detail for fronting open space with public road garage access. Their typical shows a significant portion of the driveway in the right of way. That doesn't make us feel very comfortable on maintenance. So I'd like to just strike that comment and have them add the following condition would be add a note stating that driveway maintenance will be the responsibility of the HOA.
Mhm.
And the other projects, I recommend approval or recommendation, positive recommendation.
Okay.
So that was for Groves Reserve Phase 2, strike condition 3 and add a note stating that driveway maintenance will be the responsibility of the HOA.
Okay. Shane, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
Mr. Ballman? Okay, Commission, are there any discussion on the consent agenda?
Yeah, for some reason I missed that one of these was on the consent and I can't vote for it because it's one of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of taking that off, I may just recuse myself from the whole thing. I think you've got enough to vote for this tonight. So I'm just going to recuse myself from the whole consent agenda, and Faith is the Victory.
Okay,
It's my client,
I
plus my
understand.
son is the praise and worship leader there.
I understand. Sure. Okay.
Anyway.
And so item 3.4 is 3.3, review the final plat for Groves Reserve Phase 2 located at 1100 Pleasant Grove Road is a public hearing. So at this point, I will now close the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission and open up a public hearing. During this public hearing, citizens are welcome and encouraged to come to the microphone and speak during this public hearing. You can speak for 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Okay, I do not see any citizen comments for the public hearing, so we will now close the public hearing and open up the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission again. Are there any citizen comments for the consent, anything on the consent agenda? Yes.
We do have comments on that.
Okay. Please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Dean Lewis, 1008 Berkshire Boulevard. So the old Lebanon Dirt Road property, the Hager property, our property or my mother's property who's sitting here, her property surrounds that on two sides. And I have had a discussion, I think, with Jill and then Kenny Martin. I'm sorry, Jennifer. Okay, in regards to my mother's property has 60-foot road frontage deeded. Tax record map shows it's only 40 feet. We have a concern in regards to that. We're kind of blindsided by this. We need to know, and I asked this question regarding, because we have 22 acres that surrounds this property. And we need to know if it is actually only 40 feet, is a public road allowed to be built on 40 feet to get to our 22 acres?
As I explained in my email to you, I'm not certain that 40 feet would be significant amount, or that wouldn't suffice for probably a public street width, but
That's my thought. That's my thoughts too.
right. But the street widths are based on the classification of the road, and until we have a development or some type of use proposed for that property, we wouldn't know what what classification your potential road would be. So at that time, we would let you know, or that would be determined your road width, because there's different widths for different road
So we're
classifications.
talking 22 acres of property that, depending on what it's zoned for, could have almost anything built on it. It's surrounded by 2,000 feet of Mount Juliet main sewer line. So,
Right, but
I mean,
we can't
we've had
determine that with
discussions,
no
I mean,
plan.
vast condominiums being built on it. So, I mean, there's a huge difference here.
Right, but we're not talking about rezoning your property tonight.
No, we're not, but we have a difference of 40 foot or 60 foot. And we haven't had time to get that figured out yet
Right.
on finding out exactly where, because this property, I mean, they bought it 30 years ago.
Mhm.
They allowed Mount Juliet to run their sewer on it 3 years after they bought it. And then it's just sat there since then. And I know, and I don't see the good ones here. I mean, if there's 20 foot difference here, where is it going to come from?
You would have to acquire additional property.
We own 60 feet. And the tax records only show we only have, the aerial map shows it being almost
Okay.
41 feet.
Have you guys thought about getting hiring a surveyor?
Well, we're discussing that right now, and we've had discussions on that, and that's our next step. And I didn't know this was already, looks like it's been recommended to go ahead and move on.
Yes, sir. It falls
And,
within our land
I mean,
use
so this
plan.
is moving quickly. So we're at that point of, do we have time? I don't know how quickly this is going to move through from this point.
It has nothing to do with it.
It's not related,
It's not related.
that I'm aware of. Is the recommendation to rezone this property at all related to how much right of way he does or doesn't have to his property?
No.
I don't think it has anything to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we could remedy your 40/60 feet dilemma.
And what effect will this have on our property as far as the zoning of this to what our property in behind it? Because this is 30,000 square foot zoning, which is,
So it's almost an acre and it
it's
falls
almost
within
an
our.
acre, right?
Yes, sir. And
And-
it follows our land use plan of low density residential. That's
I mean,
why we made a
our
positive
discussions
recommendation.
before has been basically three lots per acre. Discussions I've had in the past with the city of Mount Juliet in regards to this property,
Your property or,
the 22 acres that we own.
yeah, well, I'm talking about the property that's at 1411 Old
Right,
Lebanon Dirt
right.
Road.
Right. We're concerned about our future zoning on our property.
Yes, sir. If you would like to come in and speak with me during our normal working hours, I'd be happy to discuss your property with you at that time.
Okay?
I'm just not prepared to talk about your property tonight because I don't have it before me.
But this does affect our property. I mean, our property surrounds this on two sides, two of the three sides.
But we're not rezoning your property.
But this is not, from what I understand, I haven't seen any plans on it or anything like that. But there's no roads going off of this into our property on either side. This is just strictly dead ending, correct? Cul-de-sac
This is
that-
just strictly a
that does
rezone.
not provide entrance into any other properties around it.
We wouldn't get into that at a rezone. This is just a rezone. They
Okay.
haven't submitted development plans.
Okay, that's different.
It's just a rezone. I've seen an exhibit that has a cul-de-sac, but it's just a concept. It's
Okay.
not submitted tonight.
Okay,
It's
so that's
just
something
simply
we
the
can address
rezone.
in the future.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
During the plating process.
okay. Because, I mean, that's one of the things we're concerned about,
Correct.
being that we surround it.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Anything else I need to be concerned about in regards to this?
No, and I'd be happy to talk to you about your property if you're interested in a rezone also. You can reach me at work. I think we've exchanged emails, so you know how to get a hold of me.
Mhm. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Howard Blades, 1430 11 Dirt Road. I live on approximately 10 acres, and about half of it is across the street from the property that's in question. And my question would be, is who's asking to rezone this? And is there a reason also? Who's asking?
The applicant is Robinson Developments.
Okay. And you have no plans of what they're going to do with the property if it's rezoned in their favor?
In speaking with the applicant during our pre-application and tech review meetings, they indicated that they would like to build 30,000 square foot high-end homes on those 30,000 square foot lots.
Okay. And that's something for a later day to talk about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens that would like to come up and speak about anything on the consent agenda? We did receive an email from William and Beth Jones. I think everyone on the commission has a copy of that email. And this is in regards to 1411 Old Lebanon Dirt Road. And they were concerned just about the water runoff. But here again, this is just a rezone. We're just rezoning it from RS 40 to RS 30. So if William and Beth Jones, if you're listening, then like we've talked about tonight, these other discussions will be discussed and can be your concerns can be addressed during the time of plating. So if I see no other citizen comments, are there any comments from the commission on anything from?
Hey, Chuck.
Yes.
Chuck, we probably do need to take this victory out just because I have a conflict with it so that I can vote for the others. Which
Okay.
is fair to everybody.
Okay. We will.
Motion to do that, I guess.
Okay. So there is a motion when we were setting the agenda. So, Gino,
We close the public hearing,
we did open and close a public hearing.
and then we'll move to amend the agenda to remove 3.5
3.45 to 4.
Art's looking for a second.
Say that again.
Art's looking for a second.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion to move 3.5, review this final plat for Faith is a Victory Church located at 2564 North Mount Juliet Road, all for the consent agenda, and make that a new item, and we'll call that 5.1. Okay. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your right hand. Is that right? All opposed? No. Abstentions?
Do you have any problems in just keeping it by itself? Like just hearing it right now?
Oh, we can do that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I've already said about 5.1. It's okay. 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 So we're going to move that 3.5 off the consent agenda. We will, we haven't voted yet on the consent agenda. So we will move that off the consent agenda. We'll now vote on the consent agenda. So I'm looking for a motion on the consent agenda,
You might want to say it's items 3.1 to 3.5.
which is items
3.1 to 3.5.
3.1 and 3.5.
I'll motion to approve with Sam Wood's comment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed, say no. Abstentions? So approved. Now we will hear the 3.6.
Yeah, which is that?
3.6, which is review the site plan for Faith is a Victory Church located at 2564 North Mount Juliet Road. And staff comments, Jamie?
No additional comments. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Any other staff comments? Okay. Any discussion from the commission? Citizen comments? Okay, I'm looking for a motion on this 3.6, review the site plan for Faith is a Victory Church. Have a motion? Have a second? All in favor, say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed, say no. Abstentions? So approved. What's that? Next, we're going to have review the annexation plan of services and rezone. Is there any objection to hearing 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 together? If there's no objections, we will review the annexation for the Ferguson property located on Nonneville Road, review the plan of services for the Ferguson property located on Nonneville Road, and then review the rezone request for the Ferguson property located on Nonneville Road. This is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissions. I'd like to have staff comments on this, please.
Sure, thank you. First, would like to say I'm really excited to see these larger lot developments come through our commission tonight with this one and the one previously approved at 1411 Old Lebanon Dirt Road. This request is from R1 to RS30, and it falls within our land use plan. And staff recommends a positive recommendation to the BOC.
I'm excited about this too. This is something that when I read this, I was very excited to see that these large lots are going to have some larger lots and also larger homes on these. So I was very excited. And really, I want to thank the staff. The staff has been working very hard behind the scenes pushing for a lot of these. And so I really want to appreciate and thank you for the staff, Mr. Bowman and Shane and Ms. Barlow for doing that. But in particular, Ms. Hamblin and Mr. Bowman. So I want to thank you for doing that. This is very important for our city.
I'd like to echo the same.
Mhm.
Linda, thank you, Pastor.
Yes, I'm very proud. Mhm. Is there any discussion from the commission? I'd like to call for any kind of citizen comments now. So any citizen comments on the annexation and plan of services rezone for the Ferguson property located on Nonneville Road? If you have anything, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
I'm 75 Nonneville Road. I also own 851 Nonneville Road, which is adjacent to the Ferguson property. All of this property was purchased in the early 1920s by my great-grandfather. It was almost a 100-acre farm. And it was left to two brothers. I hate to see this old farm property being subdivided. Because it's been in the family for a long, long time. I do have a couple of questions, though, that I would like to ask. This R30, how many houses per acre is that?
Well, you could probably get 1.5. So it's 30,000 square feet. An acre is about 43.
Okay.
So they are nearly an acre. I'd say 3/4 acre lots.
Okay. Another question that I have, the Ferguson property happens to be up on the hill of this farm. And I am located down in the bottom land. And I have never flooded, not even in May of 2010 or not even this past Sunday. But I do have some concerns. They go to moving earth around and changing the natural water flow. What could happen to me possibly in the future since I am down in the bottom? Could I be flooded?
Well, our rule of thumb is that we do not allow them to discharge any more water than what you're already getting. But I've had discussions with the developer. I used to live over in this area, and I know exactly where you're talking about. It's a beautiful piece, and I've begged them to work with the natural grade of the land out there and possibly have some basement homes. So I'm not sure how much grading will be done out there, but we will make sure that no more water than you're already getting will be affecting you.
Okay. All right. I heard that. Another question I have, where will the entrance into this development be? This piece of property is landlocked.
It's actually going through the current Wintry Trace subdivision. It'll connect there.
Okay, through Wintry Trace.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, the property has been surveyed, I've noticed, and I don't know who surveyed it, but we really need some additional stakes to be put up. Currently, there is no fence between the Ferguson property and my property. And the point coming off the very back down to the woods, there's a rise there, and you cannot see exactly straight. So it would really be nice if the surveyor would come back and put some more stakes in there.
He probably is just putting his instruments in now so he can determine those property lines. He may not be finished. I think we do have representation. Mr. Rye is here, and he might be able to address that for you.
Okay. And another thing, my husband and I got back there one day and walked down through where this was marked, and it seems like one stake is definitely out of line. And we just have some questions and concerns about this.
Okay. Well, Mr. Rye is right there, so if you want to get with him, we'll continue the meeting on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wright, did you have any comments now that you'd like to present?
No, sir, but I'm just here to answer questions should you have them.
Okay. Will you be here after the meeting if others have questions after the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rao.
My name is Andrea Miller. Address is 1901 Summer Lake. The Ferguson property is my backyard. I kind of have some questions on the processes, I guess, from where kind of what I've heard. This is my first planning commission meeting I've been to, so I don't really know all the ins and outs and the tiers of what things go to. Based off what we heard earlier with the old Lebanon Dirt Road, there was the term using platting, but like with this property, it said that they're going to go in through the Wintry Trace subdivision. Do we know more about the design of what this one's going to be?
We don't at this time. They did supply an exhibit. I'll be happy to give you my copy,
Okay.
but it's very conceptual in nature, and it just tries to give us an idea of their plans for the property. But this is not like the Bible for their development.
Okay.
It's just a concept.
And then I kind of have a question related to kind of what I know Nonaville Road's going to be widened. I know kind of off of Nonaville, we got approved for, there's some apartment homes going out there for the planning commission staff, I guess, that kind of recommends this to go forward. Was it also taken into, I know it hasn't been approved yet, the homes at the golf course? Was that kind of considered into kind of approving the RS 30 to get this rezoned?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So for that, if we want to kind of help with traffic on Nonaville and the schools, would also have to be coming to back to that further planning meeting for that, the golf course.
For the golf course, yes.
Okay.
And just so you know that we haven't heard any updates on that as of late.
Okay. And then I guess too, and you may or may not know, do you know how far out the Nonaville widening is set to be?
I believe it's right at Wintry Trace for now. Shane, do you know for sure?
Okay. Because this is that next hump up and thinking, you know, I think 30,000 is like, I think 0.69 acres.
It's roughly 25 lots.
So, okay.
There's a lot of open space in this development due to grade.
Okay. And then with the platting, I guess, what is that? Does that mean they come back before you guys to be heard and seen again before they get the full breaking ground type?
For their preliminary plat, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's when they can submit their construction documents.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want a copy of this? Oh, you got it.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the citizens coming out and making their comments. So, you know, if this is one of your first planning commission meetings, it can be overwhelming and daunting. What we're doing now and is just review the annexation. So there in the county, so they're being asked to come into the city. And then we have a review of plan of services, which is fire, water, things like that, police protection, and then the rezone request. So they're wanting to rezone from RS 30 to RS 40,
R1.
R1 to RS 30. Since they're in the county, they'd be R1. And so that's what we're hearing and discussing now, is simply just saying that, hey, they want to come into the city and they want to change their zoning from the county to city zoning. And then in the future, they'll come back and they'll have a plan of services, a plat of what they want to do, where the roads are, how many plots they want to have, or how many pieces of property they want to subdivide and build homes on, and what the utilities look like. And so then when they come back, then please come back and you'll have all that information. You'll be able to see all that information, get that information a week ahead of time on the website. And you can also call the Planning Commission, you can call Mrs. Hamblin, and she can also provide you additional information at that time too. And our meetings are the third Thursday of every month at 6:30. And so you should see some signs out on the property letting you know that something's going on. That's probably how you first found out about this. But you can always look on the website. You can always keep a track of how the progress is going for your impacted areas that you're concerned with. And then, like what we mentioned, you're always welcome to make citizen comments and come up and tell us what you're thinking. A lot of times we come in and we're kind of thinking one thing, but then citizens are saying something else, and we didn't really know that. And so we really are encouraging citizens to make their comments so that you can help us make a better impact upon the city, for us to hear what you're hearing and seeing what you're seeing as we make these decisions, because we are your representatives. We're appointed and we're here to serve you. So thank you for coming. Are there any other citizen comments? If not, I'm asking for a motion on this part of the agenda. Okay, this is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissions, so positive recommendation then. Have a second. All in favor for a positive recommendation, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Abstentions? So approved. Now we'll hear item 4.4. This is the new item. This is Stewart's Landing plat clarification. I think we all have a copy of this. And so I'd like to ask Ms. Hamlin to explain this, and then we'll have a discussion on this.
Yes, thanks a lot for letting me add this last minute. I've been working with the developer on this, myself, John, and Public Works team for quite some time about how exactly we're going to place these sidewalks. If you guys remember, this subdivision was originally approved in the county in 2007, I think even before it was even in our urban growth boundary. And then they got reapproval by the county in 2015. And subsequently, we've seen the preliminary plat and the final plat all have shown sidewalks on both sides of the streets. And we requested an additional sidewalk along Stewart's Ferry Pike. And should the road commission allow it, we do have the caveat in that condition. If there is a letter from Mr. Murphy with the road commission stating that he wouldn't allow it, then that would be taken care of for that part. But it didn't say that within this development. So I believe when this development was first approved, things might have been a little different at the road commission, and they were allowed to put the sidewalks in the right of way for the county. So since that time, we've got preliminary plat approval, which I gave you a copy of so you can see the grades. The developer has installed their roads, their utilities. We are trying to record this plat, and we're having an issue, a tug of war, if you will, between ourselves, the road commission, and Gladeville Utility regarding sidewalk placement for this development. So if we make everybody happy, we have I'm looking at this piece of paper here. I'd like for y'all to look at it with me. You have the right of way here, and you can see where it says proposed sidewalk. Mr. Murphy will not allow them to put that sidewalk in his right of way. Then behind that, you have a 20-foot utility easement for Gladeville Utility. They will not allow him, the developer, Mr. Hooper, he's here tonight also, to place the sidewalk within this area here, thus making the sidewalk, if it is installed, about 4 feet from these future homeowners' front porch, which is ridiculous. And I don't think anybody at this table would want that. So I don't really know how to handle this other than bringing it back to you, because I do not have the authority to remove a requirement of a sidewalk, but you guys do. So that's why we're here tonight reviewing this.
So how many homes are here on this? Looks like one large cul-de-sac or two large cul-de-sacs, basically.
I think it's what, 30 homes, 39 homes. Yeah, you can see better the development on the preliminary plat, which is the last page.
And this is off of Stewart's Ferry Pike.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would like to say I really appreciate Kingsley being honest with us about this, because we all know that the city does not go out there and inspect these at all. So he could have left it on the plat and just not built them. But he was very candid with us and has been working really hard to try to make everybody happy. And I do appreciate that. So I wanted to publicly say that to you tonight.
Or are cars allowed to park overnight on this road?
Do you know if the county has that rule? So yes, you are
They do not have that rule, so cars can be parked.
Yes, they can.
in the county.
Okay. And the road has already been paved?
Not final coating, but the roads are installed. You know, you drive around your typical under construction subdivision, and that's what it looks like over there. Utilities have already been in place.
Is
So-
there any way that the road could be expanded a couple of feet for a bike lane or something?
Mr. Hooper, would you like to come up and answer Mr. Turner's question?
All the base and binder and curbs are in, so it's not really feasible to widen the roads. If there's a concern about people parking on the streets, that's potentially a restriction we can put in place in the HOA CCNRs. And I've had that on other projects where we said no street parking.
So when we're talking about sidewalks, what's your biggest concern about having or not having sidewalks?
The plans have sidewalks and we plan to put them in, but the road commission basically said, no, you can't have it in the right of way. And, you know, there was a 4 to 5 year time period between the original approvals, which the road commission were not part of those original approvals. And it's just kind of been stuck between a rock and a hard place effectively.
Mr. Hooper, do you mind to introduce yourself and state your name and address for
Sure.
Ms. Johnson?
My name is Kingsley Hooper. I live at 1316 4th Avenue North, Nashville, Tennessee.
So, you know, when I think about sidewalks, I think about public safety and people getting exercise, walking around. And so I understand that we are between a rock and a hard place per se. So I'm looking for creative alternatives to have people be able to get out, walk around, exercise, get fresh air, and still be safe when they're walking on their street that they just purchased a house on. I understand it's not advantageous to have sidewalks that are 20 feet from the street and 4 feet from your home. You know, one recommendation could be that we widen the road and have a bike path. Another recommendation could be that, like what you said, you know, prohibit overnight parking or parking on the street at all. Therefore,
Actually, when I said no parking on the street, I meant no parking at all. So
so how many parking places are in each of these homes?
it's probably been including garages, somewhere between 4 to 5, maybe 6 spaces.
So do you know what the length of the driveway is basically from the road to from the garage?
I'd say somewhere between 35 to 50 feet.
These lots are a little bit bigger than what
Yeah.
we're used to seeing, so.
Yeah. hmm
I have a question. How long is the street from, so it's only one road, one cul-de-sac. How long is that street?
Off the top of my head, I think it's about 1,000 feet.
Okay, so it's,
It's in violation of our regulation, but it's proved in the county.
and then that 75-foot setback or that 75-foot buffer, that's a utility buffer, you said?
The 20-foot in the front, there's a
Okay.
20-foot utility.
So there's six,
The lot.
so there's 6 feet, 20 feet, and then that gets you to the front of the building envelope.
Mhm. This red dotted line here
And why
is
can't,
the 4 foot.
so on that road side of this, on that road side of the 75, why can't the sidewalks go in there?
The road commission will not allow
approve it?
sidewalks in the right of way.
Yeah.
I actually have a letter from an email from
Yes,
Mr.
saw it.
Murphy too stating that.
I mean, go ahead, Art. Okay. I'm a big fan of sidewalks. I'm on the BPAC committee. So, I think that all new developments should have them.
Absolutely.
But the one thing about this development, I used to live in Ridgewater and, we were in the county and it was quite a bit larger than this, but we didn't have sidewalks. But it was such a small development that you could walk on the road. There was no through traffic, and it doesn't look like there will ever be any through traffic here because there's no connectors.
Correct. I agree.
And
I like the
1,000 feet
sidewalks too, but
Is,
we're just at our wits' end on this one. But I do agree, that's a great point. There will be less cut through, there'll be no cut through traffic and, minimal.
Yeah, and to have
traffic.
if it was a half-mile street and you were going to have people walking every night, families out there, but at 1,000 feet, you're talking a quarter, a little over a quarter mile maybe.
Mhm.
So,
But they don't have any place to walk back here.
no,
That's the problem. If you look at this whole situation, this isn't his fault, but they have nowhere to walk. So you're talking about off from Stewart's Ferry, correct?
Right.
So who's
That's
going to
true.
walk on Stewart's Ferry?
nobody.
So where do these families go? They have nowhere to go except their street. So if you've got a baby carriage, you want to take it out, there's nowhere to go except your street. Unless you're going up and down the sidewalk, up and down the driveway. I understand that this is really, and I'd hate to be in your position. I think we need to look at us as a group, what we did too, or what we should require. And this goes back to an example. I met with staff yesterday up with Shane and Andy, and Matt was in there too for a little while. I brought up before about like when a hotel comes in, they say, oh, I've got an agreement to use this. And we've got to see this in writing. I think the last meeting or the one before, we have this subdivision down here on Lebanon Road, and we're talking about, is there going to be a right of way? Is something going to stop that from going through? And they put a truck there or something at Nicholsville. Okay. Same example. We were told, and this came in 2007. So we were told back whenever that it was going to be that way. We have to, as a city and staff, make sure that we have it in writing so that 10 years down the road, or this 13 years down the road, we've got something in writing that we should be able to say is enforceable, I assume, And if that changes, the rules change, we still have it for the city, for the developer, and it should fall under that grandfather clause. And that's what we've got to do as a city and make sure that this stuff's brought in. And especially since we're dealing with the county, and we can't really, there's not a whole lot of enforceable thing there. At least if we've got it in writing, we should have a little bit more right to ask for that. The other thing is, when I looked at this yesterday and I was made aware of this, even though, one of the things that I thought was maybe put the sidewalk on one side of the street instead of two, but you've got some slope challenges on one side of this. if I'm not mistaken. I looked
That's
at,
correct. We even
Let's see.
asked the possibility of putting them on the back of them,
right, and I was gonna get to
and
that
there's
too.
just not.
Well, okay, well, I thought maybe you could move the houses back on this side here. I think it's this side. I don't know if that's I guess that would be the
The last
west
page
side.
is the preliminary plat.
west side. Oh, okay. Maybe the west side, move the houses back or make them smaller and put a sidewalk in front and then because some of our subdivisions, until we passed, amended the ordinance and passed it, they just had the one sidewalk. That was one idea. The other idea Andy was talking about was maybe doing some kind of loop behind it somehow. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you've got a Class D buffer back there, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Is
he's
there
in the 100-year flood.
Okay, is there any way that he could run that sidewalk through that Class D buffer?
I think Andy stated that if it was dedicated as a greenway, you might have some leeway in the floodplain. But I think there's some sloping issues, and I'll let Kingsley.
There's a significant drop off in grade, and the area is heavily wooded. So we'd have to take down a bunch of trees and destroy that kind of natural feel of the community.
Well, I don't know what the answer to this is. I mean, I'm not going to vote for this without sidewalks. But what I'll do is just, I'll abstain from this, and let y'all make this decision because of my position on the VPAC and what I have done so much dealing with greenways and walkways. So I can't with a good heart vote for this, but I feel for you. And I know that you're in a position you didn't want yourself to be in.
I love sidewalks. I live in
Sure.
close to downtown Nashville. One of the things I like about it the most is the fact I can walk around my neighborhood.
Absolutely. And we all like to do it, and we all try to do that and get out and do it. And unfortunately, I live on the street and then even the connecting street to it. My wife asked me not long ago, do you think we can get sidewalks there? And I said, probably not in our lifetime. So, we are on Woodridge, but I mean, it's people want to get out and they want to walk, and especially in this climate that we're in today, people are staying home and they're using these and they're wanting to get out and get fresh air. And I think it's just, I wish there was something you could do. I know it's going to hurt your
One thing I was
wallet, maybe, if you could.
One thing I was thinking about is possibly, like, for example, in Nashville, in certain areas, Metro has put road striping down for bicycle. And so that I was thinking maybe putting a white road striping down so motorists can see kind of a semi-dedicated walking path on the actual main roadway.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to get permission, I guess, for that.
And I want to touch back on your comment about getting stuff in writing. We actually are doing that now. We had a project defer just last month over some requests for the same type of information.
And this isn't no reflection on y'all.
No, I know.
I mean, but this is, and we've talked about this, but here's the third one that's come up or something.
We've
just
definitely learned
recently.
our lesson. Just want you to know that.
Well, y'all do great. I mean, who would have thought in 2007 when this 2020 and here we are, and they're saying now you can't put the sidewalk, and verbal doesn't matter, does it? In court of law, it don't seem like. But so unless we could find something in some kind of correspondence that they said, yes, you can.
I think the previous person before Steve Murphy, I think he left the position several years ago.
Mr. Armstead.
Yeah. And this is something I would, if I was in your shoes too, if I was building this, and I don't know where you can, and if you could make the houses smaller, or you could go more vertical, then et cetera. But if I was moving, and this is a very desirable area for people to be out there in the county, so, and they're still close to the interstate, and I drive by there, on the Hobson Pike over in South Mount Juliet Road every Sunday. So I know, I mean, it's a very desirable area and stuff. But I mean, I personally, if you think about it and you look at that road out there, if I was going to buy a house in there, if it didn't have sidewalk, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't buy in there. So you might be able to either increase the value. I think sidewalks add value.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. And so if there's something
the problem we have is that due to the county front and side setbacks, the actual lots are a very good size. However, the actual building envelope is kind of pretty small. So it's literally pinched.
Did you have something, Bobby?
Yeah, I mean, just so maybe we can talk about why the county would take this position. And a lot of you were at the stormwater meeting workshop the other night. And to understand the dilemma the county's in on things like this, it's sort of related to stormwater. We got 20 square miles, maybe 21 square miles in the city. Mount Juliet's and we struggle sometimes with runoff, water runoff of 20 square miles with the staff that we have. But you do know that all these sidewalks we're building all over the city are going to have to be maintained. And they're going to be maintained by taxpayer dollars. And in 21 square miles, that's doable. And I think the city commission has made a financial commitment to the future to maintain sidewalks. When they break, tear up, they get out of compliance, ADA compliance and so forth. But to do that on 650 square miles of territory that the county has to do, it is, I don't know what our tax rate would be to maintain sidewalks if every neighborhood in the county started building sidewalks, what our county would do financially to maintain them. And they do maintain everything in the right of way. Now, I don't appreciate saying in 07 that this is allowable and then come back 13 years later. But keep in mind that road commissions change. They're voted in every few years, and the commissioners are always different. Probably wasn't the same commission. In fact, I know it wasn't the same commission. And so what we're dealing with is a totally different board now, and they're taking the position that a financial one, essentially. And so I hate it, but I don't know anything we can do about it.
So,
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, but Bobby, on that same note, those sidewalks could be put in and be owned and maintained by the HOA.
We've offered to do that.
Yeah, and so that way the county wouldn't have anything to do with it.
I
As
think
far as
the
maintenance.
fear of that dissolving is where this is driving from.
Oh, you mean like HOA is on it?
Mhm.
Really?
They have a shelf life. There's HOAs all over Mount Juliet that
Yeah.
have zero authority to do anything because they're so old. Nobody quit paying dues when they had to.
And they've expired, like the CCRs have expired. Mhm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing the county side. I'm just trying to tell you where they're coming from and why this seems very illogical to us with 20 square miles and a commitment from the legislative body to maintain sidewalks forever.
Right.
I mean, we have that here, but we do
They're just
not
trying to
have
be
that at the
fiscally
county level.
responsible.
so have you, go ahead, Ted.
One is the real options if the board has got, the planning commission's got, if the item was sent to the county said you're not gonna build them, probably the road commission, but that is the county. It's in the county, it's not in the city. I know why we're reviewing it because it's in our plan and our area. So, but what is the real option this board has got? Could you deny the whole thing and not let them develop the land because they would not put in a sidewalk? And the sidewalk requirement, but we said, yeah, do it, but we can't make them do it. That's where my concerns is. Maybe the city attorney could tell me what kind of legal ramifications we have.
The approval
After we come to the podium.
plat.
Will you come to the podium?
The approval of the plan requires the sidewalks. Now, subsequent to that approval, it's now been made impossible in practical terms. She said you've got a sidewalk 20 feet. The utility folks won't let the sidewalks be built over. They've got a 20-foot utility, so that's 20 feet of green space, which moves the sidewalks back to within 4 feet of the parking lot or the front of the house, rather the building envelope. So the alternative is either he doesn't build or he puts in sidewalks. So we're back here saying this is a hardship. So excuse these sidewalks so he can build his project. And he can put in sidewalks, but it makes no sense, at least in my humble opinion. But we can waive that requirement is what we're here tonight to do.
Well, that was my concern.
Mr. Huber, can you come up one more time, please? Thank you. So, I think first our responsibility is to eliminate all opportunities of putting some kind of sidewalk, greenway, expansion of the roads or something to give people access. I think that's our first and primary duty. Could you tell me again why we cannot widen the roads and put in some kind of walking path, marked path on the road?
Because we would probably have to abandon the project because that cost probably about $300,000, I'd say.
So he's already got he's saying that because he
Everything-
already has his
everything is
road
actually
and his
in.
curbing.
You've already put your
And your
curbing in.
utilities.
Everything is
And your
in.
utility. Got it. Okay.
The electric's in, the water's in, the sewer's in, the gas is in. I mean, it's complete. Interestingly enough, working with another developer recently, another engineering firm has actually come up with a way to design it for the future so that you can actually have the 50-foot right away with the county road commission and a sidewalk coexist. But that's literally just in the last 2-3 months.
And you guys will see that next month
Yeah.
on the project.
Mhm. And the reason why Gladeville Utilities not wanting to put a sidewalk on their right of way is for maintenance.
And also with Wilson County Wastewater Management as well. They're all, Gladeville are on one side, Wilson County are on the other. And it's something that they just refuse to budge on.
He's even offered a hold harmless, and they will not accept that. They're a small utility, so I understand where they're coming from. And I'm not trying to knock the road commission or Gladeville Utility tonight. I understand that they're protecting themselves, but this is just the road that we're at. We're at a crossroads here, so I think it's on us to make the decision on how this development moves forward. I wanted to be clear about that. I
Yeah.
understand where they're coming from.
What about a performance bond?
Have you?
I've tried everything. I mean,
They rejected a performance bond, which would.
a performance bond is not really going to work because it would have to be kind of a performance bond in perpetuity. So I mean, utility districts, they're not thinking about the next 3, 5, 10 years. They're thinking about the next 20, 30, 40. So it's something which is just not compatible with a way of thinking, to be honest. I mean, I said straight out to the road commissioner, I said, listen, we'll have the HOA 100%, deeded and pay for any repairs. And it's like, absolutely not. So it's been something I've been working on this for about 5 months now. So
I guess the last question I have is, I agree with Mr. Giles about the having the HOA own the sidewalks, and kind of like the performance bond. You could also perhaps maybe ask for a certain amount of money to be kept aside in a bank account for.
I have no problem with that. Sorry to interrupt. I would have no issue with that, but they are literally is absolutely not.
And you've asked them about that for
Yeah.
enough to maintain the sidewalks for say 50 years or something, and
I think that's very difficult to put a value on that. So.
and did you ask them for that?
I did not ask them for that, but I think that nobody knows what the price of concrete is going to be in the next 50 years or the cost of labor. So it's something that if they feel that they can't control it, it's not an option. It's very, very challenging.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the dead end right here.
it is.
You want to tell you what normally happens when this happens? Just don't build. And no one inspects it from the city. And life goes on. It's happened how many times?
So many, and that's why I appreciate Mr. Hooper being so candid with us,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I'm just telling you.
He doesn't want to be deceitful to the future homeowners out there or to us, so he did bring it to us, and he surely didn't have to because we'd have never known.
And I think
Unless
that
one of
really
us moved
says
out
a
there.
lot about you too, seriously.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm looking for any other comments before I make a motion? See no other comments from the commission. Did we call for any citizen comments on this area? I guess we did. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion for Stewart's Ferry, what,
Stewart's Landing.
4.4.
So what do we do? Approve the no sidewalk fee? So wait. Yeah, I'll make that motion. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to waive the sidewalks for this development and a second. So all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, abstentions,
One.
and one abstention. So approved. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for your honesty.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your time, commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second to adjourn? The second one, Ms. Christensen. All in favor, say aye. Raise your right hand, aye. Opposed, no. Abstentions? So approved.
You did do a good job.